Welcome back, everybody, to the 360 Size Up podcast, where we have some awesome guests, leaders in the fire service, leaders in the private industry. Today, we have another awesome leader in the fire service, Chief Iannuzzi with the Durham, North Carolina Fire Department. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it.
Hey, if you don't mind, Chief, just talk a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the fire department that you work at. How big is it? Maybe number of calls that you run annually. Just kind of an overview of yourself.
All right. I've been with the Durham Fire Department for 28 years. I currently serve as the Deputy Chief of Administrative Services, and we are an all-hazards department. Fire, EMS, we do EMS at an ALS level, limited, and are working our way back towards providing that throughout the whole city. We also have a hazmat team, technical rescue team, swift water rescue team. So we run the whole gamut of the different services that you can provide. We operate out of 19 stations throughout the city. We cover about 130 square miles, 447 people in the department. Just over 400 of them are in operations. Run about 30,000 calls a year.
30. Did you so when you started out there, Chief, what was your position?
I started as a firefighter.
Firefighter, worked your way up.
Yeah. I started in New York as a volunteer. A friend of mine from college talked me into joining the volunteer fire department his entire family was part of when we were roommates. And so I did. And after 7 years working in banking and not enjoying it, I was on vacation down here visiting my brother, who was a police officer in Raleigh. And a friend of mine called me up and said, "Hey, Durham's having an open house. They're hiring." I went, and I figured, you know what? I like doing this for free. So if they pay me for it, I'll probably enjoy it as well. And that's how I ended up down here. They just kept calling me back and eventually hired me.
Wow. Did you get promoted because you did everybody's taxes on the fire department, or was that part of it?
No, I never was a tax accountant, but I've had a lot of people ask me a lot of financial questions over the years.
Right. So you started out as a firefighter there. What positions did you have throughout the fire department before you got to deputy chief?
Pretty much all of them that existed at the time. I was a driver, I was a captain, I was a battalion chief. We now have a division chief position because of the growth in the department, which is between battalion chief and assistant chief. I skipped that one because it wasn't there. Became an assistant chief. I was the assistant chief of planning and administration, and then from that was promoted to deputy chief, and I was the sole deputy chief for about 10 years. I think it was before we added a second deputy over the past year we've had, and I had enough of operations, so I declined that, and I stayed with planning administration. So I oversee the fire marshal, the fire prevention division, and the rest of the administrative division, all payroll, supply, logistics, anything that doesn't have to do with operations. Pretty much falls into that. And then the other deputy, in addition to operations, also handles training.
So we see a lot of people in the fire service, Chief, that come in the fire service, but they don't progress. What would you say? Was you goal oriented? Did you know, hey, I want to go to the top? What got you to be deputy chief? Was it driven that you got there? Say, hey, I love this, or was it just performance? What was the drive?
I really never cared about going any further than captain. But I had supervisors that thought that I could do a little bit more, and so they kind of pushed and encouraged me to continue promoting up, and that's pretty much how that happened. And I tell people all the day, I miss it every day. I'm Now, our headquarters is back after over 25 years, is back in the headquarters Station 1 in downtown Durham. And so now I hear the truck leaving every day, and every day I miss it. So it's, one of those things that I wish I was back on the truck. That's where, all that excitement is. But I still do get to go to scenes if I want, which is also nice because you got the freedom. But it was just other people saying, hey, we could really use you to do this, we could use you to do that. And those positions were not on a frontline apparatus. So that's what kind of directed my career.
Awesome. Did you have a mentor along the way that kind of helped you, or was this just a drive that you had inside?
Yeah, I had several. One was the training chief at the time. I was out in the training division, Chief Ernie Janetta, and then and also Fire Chief Dan Curia, who is now the fire chief in Charleston, South Carolina. And he was my supervisor after that. After I got promoted to battalion chief, he was my supervisor for a while. He was the operations chief. And then he was promoted to deputy chief. And when I got promoted to assistant chief, then he was promoted to fire chief. He promoted me to deputy chief. So probably the most influential person was Chief Curia that pulled me along, kicking and screaming. So, but
Now he's
really well. He is the current fire chief in Charleston, South Carolina. Yes. After all that, he abandoned me.
Abandoned you. Got you to deputy chief, though.
He did.
He felt like he did his job. Is that what it was?
He did. He did. And if I had an opportunity, I'd go work for him again. But
awesome.
He was a fantastic chief to work for.
Through the years that you've been there, starting out as a firefighter, what's some of the biggest things, positive or negative, that you've seen in the fire service or at your department that we faced through those years?
Well, 9/11, and probably going back as far as I could think, where some major things that changed the way we operate. Going back to that, at the time, I was a member of the hazmat team, so a lot of stuff obviously changed there. That looks at at terrorism more than industrial accidents, and we've been through a couple of economic downturns and had to live a little bit with a little bit less funding. We have seen tremendous growth in the city of Durham. When I started, there were 12 fire stations, and we're at 19 now. Wow. And we're getting ready to build or have plans for up through 26. So that's over several years, probably station 21 coming online in the next 2 years, and possibly 20 and even 22, depending on some things that continue with the growth. So just a lot of the growth that's taken place is what is probably most memorable, is just seeing the size of this department grow. And, within this department also, we had 2 battalions at the time. Now we have 4 battalions. Mm-hmm. So that also was instrumental in my being able to grow and develop, because the department needed growth. They needed, additional officers. Every time we added a station, you're adding another, 3 to 6, officers. And then the battalions expand. So just a tremendous amount of growth, and just things going on in the world that make you really have to start to adapt to things.
So, what brought the growth over in Durham?
Just this whole area, the Research Triangle area, is tremendous amount of growth. Durham, Raleigh, Chapel Hill area. There's a lot of technology growth out here in the Research Triangle Park that's driving a lot of that growth. Something else that we did go through, a couple other things that we went through that pretty memorable, because I just did an interview, wasn't expecting to, but with one of the local, I think it's Spectrum. We just did an interview talking about the gas explosion we had back in 2019. That was something that we hadn't seen. I had never been a part of anything, that significant. When I came around the corner and saw the devastation of, pretty much a block destroyed, it was due to a boring incident that hit a gas line, filled the building with gas, and it let off. So things like that to go through. They change the way you think about some things, and so again, one of the more memorable events, and one of the things that probably changed my thinking a little bit on some things. But
you mentioned the triangle. Is that like the pharma industry? Is that triangle, that some of that industry coming into your area?
There is pharma in there, but it's a little bit of everything. You've got pharma, you've got lighting, you've got agriculture. There's pretty much everything out there, and as well as tech. You've got silicon. There's a little bit of everything out there, and it's still growing. It was started back in the 50s, I think, is when it was first conceived and brought out there by the universities, and it's just kind of been a magnet for technology companies of just all different types. So it's an interesting area, brings a lot of growth. In fact, that's where we're rebuilding a station. We're rebuilding Station 19, and it's going right in the middle of Research Triangle Park.
Awesome. Well, industry pays taxes. Taxes pay for firefighters, so that's awesome. Good.
Yes, it does. So,
does that change your response, how you purchase when industry like that moves in? When it comes to making sure that you have the resources, the engines that need to pump when they go to industrial sites and things like that, does all that come into play for your department when it comes to purchasing stuff?
We haven't changed the design of any apparatus because of it, but it will be, like, this station is going to be a 4-bay station. It's out on the edge of town, which might be unusual for something like that, but we've made a determination that we need to build for the future, and it's actually it'll be 4 bays for us, and it will also be co-locating Durham County EMS with us. So I don't know how many bays they're going to have, but maybe 2. So it's going to be a large building, but it'll have an engine in it, potentially a ladder. There's and whatever else we decide to add out there. We're in the process of figuring out what kind of things would be redeployed. But right now, there's a Quint in Station 19, and we're just figuring out what we're going to be doing with that station once it gets open. We just bought a software package that we're just going to start looking at some different ways of deploying things, and but it is a big growth area, so we need more resources to go out there because it's continuing to grow, and it's not only just growing in tech, but there's residential growing out there too. There's a lot of mixed use that's getting built all over, which I'm sure many places are experiencing. It's not just a commercial area or residential area anymore. There's a lot of mixed use that gets built into these places, and so it's not just you can the sidewalks roll up at 5 p.m. You've got restaurants coming in and all entertainment venues that are going to be there. So it's going to be a very busy area.
Great, awesome. So you talk about building for the future. What's the hiring pool look like in your area when you post jobs?
Not as good as we would like it to be. It's we still get 350 to 400 applications, but we don't get the same number of follow-throughs. So it makes it very difficult. I was in the training division back in 2006, and at the time we would get that still same 350 to 400 applications, but you had a much higher percentage of people that would show up for the written test, for the physical ability test, and that would make it through the process. And at the time, we were hiring 20 to 25, maybe sometimes as little as 15 people at a time. So you were hiring out of the top 10, 15, maybe 20% the outset of people. And now we have about 50% don't even follow up after they put the application in. They don't follow up for any of the testing. So it makes it very difficult. And, we got generational issues and with people that think that they want to be a firefighter, but they haven't really investigated it. And so then even once they get into the academy, we find a lot of attrition where we used to lose, very few. Now we lose a lot just out of the academy itself. So we start looking for other ways of hiring. We'll still use fire academies. The larger cities around here do run fire academies, and to build the staff. And we're still going to do that, but we've got to find a way to attract other people, existing firefighters, because when you've got this runoff, we've got people that don't stay 5 years. If you don't keep those people there, then eventually that impacts you being able to get drivers and captains, because nobody has any seniority because of that turnover at the bottom. So we're finding it difficult, especially with expansion, because when we went through that growth, we opened up a fire station. When we opened up Fire Station 17, we added 2 companies. We added another battalion, and we added a division chief. So we had a lot of officer slots to fill, and we have just finally caught up to the point where we've been able to fill the slots. But we've got nothing left on the list at this point. So our driver's list is exhausted, our captain's list is exhausted, and it just went into effect in January. So, and if we don't do something about this gap at the bottom, where we don't have this big pipeline of people coming into their 4th and 5th and 6th and 7th through 10th years, we're going to have trouble filling those again, especially because we're getting ready to expand and open additional stations. So we've got to find a way to get people into those positions where we've got people with seniority that are going to be eligible to promote over the next 3 to 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I remember a time in the fire service where the challenge was never about getting people into your, to fill out applications. It was more about funding. And now it's things have kind of changed. I know, Chief, that you've talked before we got on the podcast that you've championed a new hiring process there in your department. Can you talk a little bit about what that process looks like? Where did you come up with that idea?
Well, it's not in effect yet, and we're still ironing some of the things out. But as I was thinking about those issues that we've got, retention, and that high turnover at the bottom and not having people in place, and also us having people move to other departments because of pay. We've got surrounding departments that were paying significantly more than us, and so we've had a lot of attrition that can be attributed to that. And we're in the process of completing a compensation study. The Human Resources Department is, I should say, the fire department didn't do that, but HR has done that. And so we're expecting to be brought up to very competitive shortly. And once that happens, we figured we can probably either get some people back, or we can find firefighters that are looking to move to either a larger department, a department that has more fire, more shooting, stabbings, whatever they're looking for. And we have all that in Durham. And I think that the feedback that we get is, hey, I really like the department, but I need more pay. So I told people, hey, just hold on. We're working on that. I think you're going to like what's going to come out of it. And I don't know what that is yet, but I think we're going to become much more competitive. And if you want to just hold out, but that hasn't worked. So, but the feedback is this is a very good department. It's a great department to work for in terms of you've got action, you've got growth opportunities. If you want to advance within the department, you can. There's a lot of flexibility. Um, and just from a culture standpoint, it's a little bit more relaxed, maybe than some other departments that I know of. And so it's a good place to work. And people would come here, and we've put feelers out, and people have told us, oh yeah, if you come up to this level of pay, I'll go over there in a heartbeat. But we're not just going to take everybody that wants to come work here. And so what this new program I thought about was, well, who are the elite? Who are the people that we can bring in? We can cut down the process of getting them in. It's someone that we can take from someplace, and we can put them on a truck, and right away they're up and running. And so that whole training downtime is gone, because that's what we want. That's what we need to do, is get some people in some seats. But we got to make sure that they're the people that can do that. That we don't have to spend a lot of time training. So and everybody knows people that are like, hey, you know, you would love it over here, and you're great. Whether you know them because you grew up with them, but they just happen to be in a neighboring department, or you've been to training courses with them someplace. We're looking for people like that can come in, sit down, and they're ready to go. And so we're working out a vetting process for that. And two of the things that come with that is, and we run lateral hiring academies, and we get really good people, but that doesn't solve that problem of seniority, of time and grade. I shouldn't say seniority, but time and grade, and that time frame. So the overall concept was, get this person that's ready to go right away. We put them in. They got 2 work periods to go through and complete an FTO task book, which is fairly aggressive. And we modeled that after someone that we just brought in as a lateral, and he did it in 15 days, which is very fast. Mm-hmm. And we would probably take 2 field training officers, maybe 3 per shift, and again, these would be your top FTOs that are able to recognize the skills and whether or not someone's got what we're looking for in that short period of time, and get them through it super quick. And then now they're released, and they count as that additional person on that truck. In order to do that, sometimes though, people don't want to always start over again. Some are willing to do it, depending on how far they in. So we're looking for people that, have got, 5 years worth of experience already, that can be that firefighter that just comes and sits down and is ready to go. Understands the life, is a lifer that's probably not going to move someplace else. And so we want to reward them with not starting out at bottom pay, because that's how everyone comes in the Durham Fire Department. Now has always been, you're starting at bottom firefighter pay. So if we can bump you up several steps, that'd be great. Now, we don't know exactly where that's going to be, because that comp plan's not in yet, and we don't want to, disparage the current members. So we've got to figure out where that the right line is for that. And then also, as far as time and grade goes, where do you come in? And that's what, from talking to people, has been the game changer. If I can come in with 2 years, 3 years, something like that, and I don't have to start over again. I mean, I could be eligible to be a driver in 2 years. That'd be great. And that's another aspect of it. They'd have to get their relief driver status. We call it a relief driver. It's departments call it different things. They have to get that within 1 year. So because we need people to drive trucks as well and fill in. Yep. So that aspect of coming in with some time and grade and not starting at the bottom is where we think is going to make the big difference in pulling in laterals and being able to be very, very selective. Because again, we need someone that we don't want to have to train them. They're going to have to come in and be able to sit down, have certain certifications right off the bat when they come in, and we would roll them in. And my thinking for it was, we can because right now I encourage people to recruit year round. We only hire an academy once a year, but I want to do year round recruiting. So if I meet someone at a conference and I say, "Hey, Dan, we would love to have you in Durham. Are you interested?" "Yeah, I am." "Okay, great. Um, here's how we get the process started, and we get you going. We get you vetted. You're on a list. And as we have someone retire or we have someone leave, hey, you're up. And as soon as you're ready, um, we bring you in. We put you on a truck with a field training officer, and the whole thing starts. As soon as that field training officer is done, they move on to the next one. Dan's out, and we bring in the next person that's on the list, and we just start cycling them through. So that can help us stay at a minimum staffing point where we don't have to use overtime, because we're using overtime like everybody else is. I think quite a bit of overtime right now. But if we can bring in people, because we've got a list, if we, 6, 10, 15, whatever, 20 deep, I don't care what it is, and you keep working where you are up until then, you can tell them, you can not tell people, and then all of a sudden you get the call and say, "Hey, we're ready. We got a spot for you," and you can move in. And hopefully that, again, um, it's still in the development stages. It's fairly developed. There's a few things we still need to work out, but because they haven't, I don't want to say what all those parameters are as far as the time and grade and the pay are just yet. But got to do something different.
Yeah, that sounds like a great plan. What's the investment time? And I don't know, you may not know the actual dollar amount when you bring in a new firefighter. It starts a recruit, and then once they come out, the investment that you've got in that new recruit.
We estimated it in that first year, because our academy is 8 months long. So I think it's at 8 months, right about 8 months right now. But between that and the upstaffing for the academy, I believe we measured it, and it was about a year ago, but it was somewhere between $80,000 and $100,000.
Wow!
So
it's add up. Yeah. So if you're getting a firefighter that's already been in the fire service 3, 4, 5 years, it's got some certification, there's a huge savings.
It's their salary, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's there's not a lot of recruiting to it. I think it's going to be more of a word of mouth thing, where someone says, "Hey, I know this guy Dan King. He would be great for the Durham Fire Department." I talked to him about it, and then you say, "Yeah, I'm interested," and we bring you in. And about the only thing that we will have to do as far as the training and get someone through is ALS, is to get them through the Durham County, actually for EMT, for all of it. We'll have to get them certified. They'll have to be certified by the Durham County Medical Examiner, or Medical Director. Sorry. The Durham County runs the EMS system. So the medical director would have to sign off on that person to operate as an EMT in Durham County, and that's just a process that we'd have to go through to get them certified. The rest of it can all be done on a truck by our field training officers, and can be done very quickly. So that means that and I don't know what that process of the EMS sign off is, but if all this recruiting, if we've got a pool, just a lineup of people that are ready to come in, it can be done in a couple of months, pretty much, between the medical sign off and us getting you certified. Probably less than 2 months.
That's
from
a lot.
hiring you to being signed off and operating independently on the truck.
Wow. Much quicker than recruit school.
Much quicker.
Yeah. Huh. Is are you, where you're at over there, Chief, is there, have you got a lot of fire departments around you that you're that may be pulling your firefighters over, or are you kind of in a, kind of out by yourself?
We've had one department pull 11 in the past year, and 9 of them are still there. And we've had people go to other departments, but not necessarily in this area. So we had another one went, another 2. So probably just under 15 have gone to other local departments in the area or within 30 miles, let's say.
Wow.
But we also see people just, it's a lot of, hey, just a lifestyle change. And so they're leaving the fire service altogether, or they're leaving the area altogether and going to, back to Ohio or something. Yeah. So, but definitely the local area and one department in particular has hurt us in coaching. So we're looking to do the same thing. But, we were talking about, once before, it's just something that happens at the fire service. People move for various reasons. And if we can be the right spot for them to move to, if we're what they're looking for, we want to make sure they know about it.
What's the old saying? If you don't change what you're doing, you're just going to get the same results. So if
Right.
and then you're going to be spending $80,000 to $100,000 on a new recruit when you could be spending that money on maybe officer training and things like that. So it sounds like a pretty good plan. Hopefully it works out for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey,
some other people too.
Officers, Chief, just for you as an officer, I always try to pull something out of anybody that comes on to our podcast because I look at those as high performing people in their industry. If you wanted to just kind of wrap things up by just sharing, somebody, an officer or a future firefighter that's listening to this podcast, where maybe looking one day to be the deputy chief of a fire department, what advice would you give them? What skill sets do you say they need in our current state right now in the fire service? What advice would you give that person?
Learn as much as you can about everything. If you're looking to move up and you learn as you move up through the ranks, everything changes. Your perspective changes at every step. And you see a little bit bigger piece of the pie. So the more you can learn about your department and the way it operates. So most people are familiar with the operations. And you could, they can tell you everything about the operations of the department. But get to understand the other things. How does your hiring process work? Where do you find firefighters? How do firefighters get into the department? What are, how do your apparatus get purchased? How do you select your, what turnout gear and what SCBA you're going to wear? And what, learn about the other surrounding departments as well. How do you interact with the other agencies? Who are the leaders of those departments, and what's similar and what's different? How do you need to interact with them? And then also within your organization or your city or your town, whatever municipality you are, how is that run? Because that's important to it as well. Because once you get up into these upper levels, you're not just dealing with the people in the fire department anymore. You're dealing with people outside of the fire department. So learn as much as you can about your area and stay in tune with what's going on in the fire service and what's going on. Like one of the things the recent thing that's come up is the changes that OSHA is going to adopt NFPA standards. Whereas before we had to comply with the 2 in, 2 out rule because it was an OSHA standard, if you're in an OSHA state. Now they're going to adopt NFPA. So you just got to be aware of all the stuff that's going on in the fire service, and don't let your guard down because you don't want something to, jump out and the boogeyman get you. But just keep learning. If you're looking to advance, you've got to learn more than just engine company tactics. You got to learn more about the fire service in in general and in whole, and about your municipality. But you don't have to do it all at once. You don't cram it. You just learn it as you go, and you have fun while you're moving up.
That's awesome.
And find someone to listen to.
Find someone
listen more than speak.
Well, I think for me, I've known you for some time now. I think you model that behavior. I think, and we met through the International Fire Chiefs Association. So when you say be on top of what's going on in the fire service, you definitely model that. I've seen you get up and speak in front of some pretty big crowds. You definitely have your finger on the pulse in the fire service, and I greatly appreciate that. I appreciate you being on our podcast. It sounds like Durham's doing some great things, growing. Sounds like the triangle there is getting some, talking about the OSHA standards. So you're on top of that. That's going to affect that area also. So I wish you great luck and success. And I thank you again for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you having me.
All right.